Okay, our first podcast. I'm Joe Bryan,
I'm Tony Foster.
and we're at Beachcomber Studios for the first episode of Best Treatment Practices.
Right, and today we're going to tell you why we're doing what we're doing, and how often we're going to do it, and what our goals are here. So, Joe, you want to start with why?
Yeah, well, first I want to make sure everyone knows that we'll be serious at sometimes, but we also would like to have some fun because if you don't have fun, then who would want to listen to everything we have to say? But also, the objective is to educate, advocate, and hopefully organize if we can for the issues that are facing addiction, the family addiction portion, all aspects of addiction.
And an overriding goal of what we're doing is try to help improve the industry and how treatment happens, the effects it has on clients, and the effects it has on their families, so that they have a better experience and ultimately a better outcome.
Right. And if you want to find more about besttreatmentpractices.com, the objective of that was hopefully down the road to have a list of treatment centers that are prove that they are quality, that they're not dangerous to their patients, they give what they say they give, and they hopefully have very good outcomes. And that is the idea of starting the best practice of treatment. I always say, although I'm aging myself, the Zagat of treatment centers. Yeah, so a lot of people know what Zagat is, but some of us older fellers do.
Yeah, and really, we want to. Joe mentioned people getting what they think they're supposed to get out of treatment. We want to make sure that what people are promised. Anybody can have a great website. Anybody can say they do certain things, and then you get to the treatment center and it's nothing like that. We are trying to ensure that people live up to their promises and do what they're supposed to do, both legally and from a perspective of the whole industry, and lifting the whole industry up so that we can, keep going forward in a positive manner.
Yeah, and we've come up with what we think is a foolproof method to get to those goals, and they would be reevaluated every month. And I've analyzed and talked to many people, and I've been working on this idea for many years because of the issues that many of us have heard about, read about. And one of the things that always concerns me is also the families of the people who go into treatment. The families send their loved ones somewhere and hope that what they were told is true, but they never know until they hear from their person in the treatment center. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And this whole thing reminds me of something you said to me 15, 18 years ago when I was an intern at the Beachcomber. Already there was a lot of instances of treatment centers promising things that they didn't follow through on. And when my internship was over, you said to me, I want you to go work for 2 years in the real world and see what it's really like out there, and then you can come back. And thankfully, fate intervened, and I never had to go there. But even then, there was a perspective that a lot of places, promised horseback riding on the beach, or tennis courts, or pools, or things like that didn't exist. And we're trying to elevate the whole industry.
Well, just so you, I guess, give you a little background of myself, and Tony will tell you about him. I'm the owner of the Beachcomber. I've been here at the Beachcomber since 1980. I've been the president of a number of different organizations, such as the AP Florida, put on conferences. Tony and I have spoke at many different conferences as well. I'm an author. I have two nonprofits. One of them is Best Treatment Practices. Another one is FATC, which maybe a lot of people have heard about it. It's also trying to advocate for addicted people. And I went through LPN school. I haven't taken the test, but I am on the board of a college in Palm Beach County. So that's just some of the stuff. And been here 42 years. So I have some knowledge of addiction. Tony, why don't you tell me what's your background?
Okay, well, I first met Joe when I showed up to the Beachcomber as a patient, and not in very good shape, almost 20 years ago. In a few months, it'll be 20 years ago. And when I came here, I came from the restaurant industry, and I knew I couldn't go back to the restaurant industry because there's a lot of drinking and drug use that goes on in that industry. And I knew I wouldn't stay sober if I went back to it. And I was at a desperate point in my life. My family had left me. I was in the late stage alcoholism, and I was yellow. I had lost 65 pounds. And so I was kind of willing to do whatever I was told. And over the 5 weeks I was here, I came to the realization that I had to find another career. And I saw what therapists did, and I've always been a bit of a bleeding heart, and I thought if I got the right training, I might be able to do that. So I took about 3 years to get my sobriety on firm ground, and I went back to school at the age of 48 and got a dual master's in mental health and rehab counseling, and came to Joe and said, could I be an intern in your facility? And he said, absolutely not. And then I badgered him for a while, and eventually he relented, and I became an intern here. Apparently there had been a bad experience with interns in the past, but I was firm resolve that I wasn't going to be that. And so I worked hard for a year and a half at the Beachcomber as an intern. And that's when Joe said to me, you got to go work somewhere else. But that never happened. I stayed here, and along the way, I got a PhD in counseling. I've written a few books myself. I've just finished one that hasn't been published yet, but is ready to be published. I have another one that I'm about a third of the way through, and I'm, in recovery for almost 20 years and live a recovery life every single day. And so that's pretty much my story.
You mentioned he has got his doctorate, which is wonderful at the same college we both went to, FAU.
That's right.
He's a professor, but it reminds me of a story when you were in treatment. They asked you to do something. Maybe you could tell us. And you, like a professor or egghead, it came back with how many pages was it?
Well, I was asked to read a short book and write 5 pages about how I related to it. And my ego was so big at the time that I wrote 43 pages that had absolutely nothing to do with what was in the book. It just, was about me. And the therapist who was here at the time was not happy with that. And it led to one of my turning points in treatment because, I almost had to leave then because I behaved very badly when he reacted to my 43 pages.
What did you throw it in the garbage?
No, he threw the pages at me, and I started screaming and cursing at him, and that's not something I do very often. But this is not the kind of place that you do that sort of thing. But it was suggested to me that I should do some prayer and meditation in my room, and I didn't know how to do either of those things. But I did my best, and I calmed down. I came back to the next group, and I had forgotten who I was mad at or why I was mad at them. So it was one of the light bulbs that went off for me. But I have to say, to follow up on that story, the following week, that same therapist gave me another assignment, and my ego-based mind said, "Oh, now he knows who he's dealing with." So I wrote 47 pages. And so he threw them at me again, and I went nuts again. But this time, nobody had to tell me to go pray and meditate. And so along the way,
let me tell you something. If I was given the assignment, I would have brought out a crumpled piece of paper with one line on it. I mean, that's usually the opposite of us. I mean, and it might even have gum on it.
But along the way, I was taught something called toothbrush therapy. and prayer and meditation is part of toothbrush therapy. And I mentioned earlier I stayed here 5 weeks. The program's 4 weeks, but I was in such bad shape they thought I should stay an extra week. And by that point in my stay here, I had become compliant and would do whatever I had to do. And I stayed that extra week, and toothbrush therapy was really instrumental in my life. And to this day, 20 years later, I still do it. And, I feel like it really keeps me sober.
Yeah, we already mentioned who brought that to the Beachcomber. I don't know if he was the originator of it, but it was Trey Cryer, who is now no longer with us, but he worked at the Beachcomber over 20 years. He did a lot of good work out there.
He did a lot of good work at toothbrush therapy, rapid resolution therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trey had a niche that was different from a lot of people's, but it played perfectly at the Beachcomber for the fact that all our therapists at the Beachcomber are different. They have different approaches. And Trey was a former Marine, and his approach was very do it right and follow the rules. He used to say, follow the simple directions. He'd start every group with follow the simple directions. And he convinced me to do that with toothbrush therapy, and here we are.
Yeah, actually, you have a book on toothbrush therapy.
Yes, and along the way, about 7 or 8 years.
It's a workbook. Yeah.
Yes, about 7 or 8 years into this, I was going to AA meetings, and I was finding a lot of people talking about doing these 5 things every day to stay sober. They weren't using the term toothbrush therapy, but all the elements of it were in there. And I came to Joe and I said, we ought to copyright this. And Joe, with his benevolent manner, said, "Nah, it's all right. Let's leave it alone and not worry about it. If people are getting better by it, that's great." And of course, my business background kicked in, and I said, "Well, I'll copyright it, and then if you or the Beachcomber want it personally, I'll just sign it over to you." And so, toothbrush therapy is something that's copyrighted. And about 4 years ago, I wrote a book about it, which is the story of how it started, and what it is, and a year-long workbook that our clients at the Beachcomber get when
actually it's like a book. I was thinking about it. It's like in the gym. When you go to the gym, a lot of people have a workbook.
Yeah.
And they put in there each time they did whatever they're supposed to do. Well, that's what the workbook's about. You have to do, or you should do certain things during the day, and you chart it.
Yeah, and probably we should say what the 5 things
are.
Yeah,
that's what I was hoping we do.
Yeah, prayer and meditation is one of those things. Go to a meeting every day, talk to another addict or alcoholic every day, read 4 pages of positive literature every day.
Gratitude.
And do a gratitude list at the end of the day. And,
it's not that hard, though.
When I first learned it, I in the column, I wrote down how long it would take me to do all those things. And I figured out
8 hours,
an hour and 45 minutes, and an hour of that is the meeting.
Yeah.
So I started figuring out at what part of my day I would pray and meditate, when I would do my readings, when I would do my gratitude list, so that I could fit it into my schedule, and it's just become part of my life. And people that really do it every day. Trey used to. When Trey taught it, he used to pound on the table and he'd say, "If you do these 5 things every day, I guarantee you're never going to drink or use drugs again." And of course, I didn't believe him at first, but here we are.
Yeah. So there's things like that we're going to be talking about in the future. So anyway, what's on our next agenda on there?
Well, I think we want to talk about how often we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're shooting for doing this on a weekly basis.
Yes.
And filming it as we're doing today, and putting out about a 30 to 45 minute video, possibly as much as an hour sometimes. We're hopefully going to have some guests from time to time, and they'll be prominent people in the industry, and they may be people that talk about how to become a therapist, or people that are starting a new way of doing therapy. Uh, about 12 or 15 years ago, Trey brought us rapid resolution therapy, which is something that helps with trauma victims.
Yeah.
And that really changed how we did business at the Beachcomber. And,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of treatment centers have followed
Oh, I
suit.
preached it to them all, and
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't done more of it.
Yeah.
There's so many that don't have it.
Yeah.
But we also have the bio bed here.
Right.
Our studio here is we get the last pick because the bio bed gets a room and rapid resolution gets a room, and we got what was left, and we're sharing it with multiple
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you notice, the studios here is awful dark. Well, it's supposed to be that way.
If you saw us in the light of day, you wouldn't like it.
That's the truth. Yes. Oh gosh. So what's next for you? Any conferences?
I don't have a conference
Well,
schedule right now except the EAP.
AB conference, and
Of
who's
course,
going to be there?
yeah. Well, I'm going to let you tell that, but just a bit about the EAP for a moment. When I was an intern, you came to me and said, Tony, you really should get involved in this.
Mhm.
And I think your father was one of the people that really pretty much started it, didn't he?
Mhm. Yeah.
And he got you involved, and you got me involved. And fast forward 18, 19 years later,
Right.
you've been the president multiple times.
Right.
I've been the president once. I'm the vice president now. I've been the vice president before. And the EAP of Florida is a quarterly meeting that we haven't had quarterly since COVID started,
Yeah.
but we will be having it quarterly again, where we put together a networking event for EAP professionals and therapists and treatment providers. And it's done in Melbourne, Florida, and at a beautiful hotel. We put it on very inexpensively so that individual therapists who have private practices can easily afford to come. And we have guest speakers. And why don't you talk about the special guest speaker we have?
We're going to have Dog the Bounty Hunter there, mainly because of entertainment value. I just want you to be aware of. I mean, he is when he walks in the room, he kind of, because of his boisterous voice, but he's seen a lot of things. He's done some good work trying to help people with addiction. Well, I'm going to tell you a story, though. It's actually 40 years ago. First meeting I went to was actually that meeting. It was 1982, and I remember this picture. My father and I got out of the elevator, walked to a room, and he's putting his card in his room. I'm putting my card in my room, and next to me was a gentleman, and he was probably my father's age, and he says, I'm sorry, the battery just went dead there. But anyway, he says, man, I'm getting old. My peers' children are now in the business. I'm thinking, wow, I passed that. I think I've got grandchildren in the business when I first started. So it was a beautiful picture in my mind. I've never had that go away. And that's the conference. I've been going there since 1982. My father said, okay, you're marketing now. I'm going back to the office. He threw me into the pond, and I had to sink or swim, and eventually learned how to swim. But to talk about the conference, it's a great conference in Melbourne on the beach. We have 2 full days of CEUs. I think you get 13. We try to. I'm this way. If you're not having fun, you're not going to want to do it. We do educate, but you got to have fun through this too. So after you're doing the CEUs, we have a tiki social. We've had mentalists there. I want to bring a conference that not only you learn something, but you can come back and say, I met a lot of people, I enjoyed with them, or I had a nice time and I went swimming, and it was just a great conference. We have AA meetings on the beach at 7 a.m. We do a lunch for everybody.
We've had live musicians. We always have at least a DJ, but
Yep.
we've had live musicians. We have golf tournament every
I
meeting.
forgot about the golf tournaments. We do that but the live musicians are right on the beach. It is a good time, but also you learn something. And it's great for counselors to go and meet who's out there. You'll meet a lot of treatment center people, but there's also a lot of counselors. But just getting out and you get to know the people. And listen, I used to take my children there. They get to swim in the pool, and I would work. And it's a great conference because of the rooms are all 2 rooms. They're called suites. It's double tree, and there's 2 rooms, a door between you and your wife and you or whomever can have one room, and the children have the other. And what happens in the other room, nobody talks about, right? But it's a great place.
But every room faces the beach too, which is really nice. And so, I think you've been going to that hotel from the beginning, haven't you?
Well, we've always tried to. In fact, we never wanted to get too large because we didn't want to leave this hotel. And couple of the board members are always worried. Well, we don't want to get too big. We don't want to get too big. And it's funny because all conferences, their objective is to try to make money and get bigger. Well, our conference is not trying to make money and get bigger. Our conference is to try to have a great time, learn something, and meet people. So we're one of the few weird conferences out there that our objective is not to get bigger, and we have not. We've stayed the same size for many years. It's going down and up. But our objective, people don't understand that, is not to get big. And when you don't think that and not to make money, so the conference is $99 to go to it. The hotel room is whatever it is. But if I could make it, my objective is make it cheaper and make it quality and have fun. And I think we meet most of those points.
I think we do. And it also, fits right into our best treatment practices kind of focus in that we teach people on it too, because of the CEUs. I got trained on how to become an interventionist there.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I got trained on how to become a substance abuse professional, which is not what the obvious name would
they call that SAP, right?
You call it SAP,
yep.
But that would imply some version of a counselor or a therapist. No, what it really is somebody who does assessments and sets plans together for people who work in the public sector, let's say airline pilots.
DOT, anybody has a DOT license and you work with DOT, and that's truck drivers, everything, they have to go see a SAP.
Right. And so if they have an issue with alcohol or drugs, they have to go see a SAP, and the SAP tells them what they have to do in order to be legitimate again, for lack of a better word. And they don't have a choice. They have to follow those rules in order to get whatever license they use to make a living to get it back. So,
let me say here, if you have any questions, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this. Hopefully we'll have our phone number down there somewhere. If not, you can call the Beachcomber and ask any questions on anything we've talked about or find more information at 561-734-1818. Or you can call me personally, Joe Bryan, 561-573-5334. I don't know. We have to get our technician to see if he can show us how to go to the next step, and that is to put numbers underneath.
There you go. Have some graphics, right?
We have a couple of engineers here. We told them to step out of the room when we're the
talent.
The talent. That's it.
That's very loosely interpreted.
I don't think I've been called talent, but not talented,
I've been called talentless.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, we have to check with our engineers. It sounds like we have a big station.
Yeah.
Engineers with plural.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that would be our next project.
Yeah. And so I think that next week at this time, I know you're probably not aware of it, watching it right now because this is being recorded. We're doing this on a Thursday morning. We're going to do it on a weekly basis. Eventually, possibly as soon as next week, we'll be live streaming it, and it'll be available both live and recorded.
And by then, I hope we know how to put the phone numbers up. If we come with what else do we have? Do we need a mascot? I don't know if we
Mascot.
need a mascot.
Maybe we'll come up with a mascot.
Maybe we'll come up with a mascot. I like that. I have a costume, a gorilla.
Yeah, you
I
do.
like the gorilla.
I like the gorilla.
Maybe we could have it in the back.
There you go. Yeah,
Ah.
that'd be great.
We want to have fun, so that's some entertainment. Is there anything else we need to have? Oh, we need a song, intro song. Love story.
Maybe not.
I think it's a good idea. And not that music from Benny Hill. That would be that good.
or the music from Jaws.
Oh, I like that one though.
Yeah.
That's like we're coming to your television. We're going
No,
your computers.
Yeah,
I just dated myself. Sorry,
maybe we'll
guys.
just have a shark fin going behind us.
Anyway, so I hope this gets out to anybody, and our our first show, and hopefully we're here next week to do the second show.
Terrific.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.